This is Patrick from WSOU 89.5 FM, the loudest rock, and today I am joined by Mark Morton from Lamb of God. How you doing?
I'm well, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So let's get right into it. Your ninth studio album, Omens, is out October 7th, and this is maybe the quickest turnaround between albums I've seen from a band post-pandemic. Lamb of God has been pretty consistent with album releases over your whole career, and this is one of the fastest turnarounds I've seen from you guys. Only 2 years between albums. What is the Lamb of God formula you think that leads to this kind of speed with recording?
I don't think there is a formula. I think honestly, we weren't able to tour, so that really had a lot to do with the turnaround time. I think we're not able to tour, so what can we do? We can write songs. We were home. Unable to go around and play on the self-titled album, so we really just kind of dove right back into writing pretty quickly after that was released. There was nothing left over from that record. These were all new creations for this new project, but Willie and I just started getting together and trading riffs and putting songs together, unable to tour. So that's really why I think you see that kind of turnaround time.
And you said how you dove right back into the songwriting because you couldn't tour for self-titled. What does the songwriting process for average Lamb of God song look like? Does it start with the lyrics? Does it start with the riffs? How does it usually bounce around?
It almost always starts with guitar riffs that Willie and I will come up with. Sometimes on our own, we'll put together a whole sort of outline for a song musically on our own. More often using pieces that each other, one or the other have brought, and we'll get together and put it together. And this time we did it in fragments. Willie and I had some demos and had some song ideas that we had put together on our own, and we got together with Josh Wilbur, our producer, longtime producer, and just kind of started bouncing stuff around, bouncing stuff off each other and trying different ideas. And we did that in different segments of time. So we do a week and a half, and then take maybe a month off and then come back and do that again. And that's really how the song started coming together. And once we felt like we had some pretty cool ideas outlined, the rest of the band got involved and started, adding their part and adding their ideas. And it's really a very, very collaborative process. I'd say the last couple albums were particularly collaborative in that sense.
Absolutely. And speaking of collaboration, you've said that the inner workings of the band have never been better, and you can hear it on the record. Where can we hear the tightness of the band on this album, Omens?
Well, I mean, I think what you hear on Omens is the sound of the band playing together. We recorded the album at Henson Recording Studios in LA, and we recorded the basic structures of the songs, the bones of the songs, I would say, were with all five of us playing together at the same time, including, when I say five, including Randy. Most of the vocal takes you hear on the actual album were from those live takes, not from the ones he did later. And after the music was recorded, we did those too, and some of that was used, but most of what you hear vocally on the record is from the live stuff, and a lot of the guitar stuff and all of the drums obviously are from those from those live in the room recordings. So it's not a live record. It wasn't recorded live, but the songs were captured in the room together, with us playing them together. So I mean, that's the sound of the whole record, really.
And how do you think recording an album like that impacts the sound? Because especially in modern music, a lot of stuff is really done to death, very produced. But do you think there's a certain rawness when recording the riffs and vocals live with each other?
I think there's a pulse. It's just sort of this X factor. I don't want to say rawness, because the album is still very produced and it's very tight, and the performances were tightly scrutinized. But there is just a pulse. There's an energy to it that I feel like is there. I mean, it just feels like a little more exciting to me to listen to.
Absolutely. And I know that in interviews you were talking about Randy's vocals. Randy said that overall it's a very off record, and you released your self-titled album in June of 2020. And since then, with everything that's happened culturally, both in the US and in the world, what can we expect to hear from Randy on this album lyrically?
I mean, that's, Randy, and I think the band in general are usually, we write about what we see around us. We write about life experiences. Everyone wants to quote Randy's off uh, comment because it's in the bio. I guess you'd have to ask him. I wasn't pissed off making this record. I had a great time making this record. I love writing songs and recording them with my friends. The state of the world, there's a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of the sky is falling. There's a lot of fear being served up to us. Some of it probably with good reason, maybe some of it not. I just like making music, man. And I had a blast making this record. It's a heavy metal record, so there's going to be dark lyrics, and I guess some of that doom and gloom stuff is pretty easy to access these days. So it makes for good heavy metal lyric fodder. But that's nothing new for us. We've always delved into that stuff. So I think this time is there was plenty to write about.
Absolutely. And you said it's a very collaborative record. You just said you had a lot of fun making it. You also made a documentary about the making of this album. Why did you feel that your fans should see the inner workings of this album in particular?
Well, it started really because the way we were going to record it. We knew we were going to be all together. And, I don't know if the average music listener pays attention to that kind of thing, but it's not really a very common way to make a record these days. To be all playing at the same time and recording every piece of it at the same time and saving parts of each performance, to use. That's not that's the way things used to be done, but very, very rarely are they done like that. So I think, we felt internally like it would be cool to document that process, knowing we were going to be doing it that way. And also I think there's just a history of behind the scenes documentary within Lamb of God, just historically back in the 2000s, in the DVD days. We were really open with having cameras around and filming ourselves, for better or worse, and kind of letting our fans see what it's like, and every step of the way, really, sometimes to a fault. And I think that access is really early in what kind of helped create such a bond between us and a lot of our fans, is because they feel like they know us, because they've been given so much access. So it had been some time since we'd done anything like that, but deciding to do so felt pretty natural.
Yeah, definitely. And you just said how you wanted your fans to see the making of this album because not a lot of metal albums or albums in general are made the way that Omens was made, with live takes and things like that. But you also said the production on this album was very important. It was produced by Josh Wilbur, who's produced every album for you guys since Sacrament. What did he do to kind of put his stamp on Omens, and how did he kind of impact the recording and writing?
I mean, he was every step of the way. He was there for the early demos, and he was kind of around as the songs were coming together, and just as a trusted ear, as trusted input, insight at least. Josh doesn't write music, but he definitely is the kind of producer that kind of can respond to what he's hearing you do, and make help you see what's good, what good is going on, and what's going on that maybe shouldn't be. And I think with our long history, there's not a lot of apprehension, and not a lot of breakdown in communication around those things, because no one's really going to get their feelings hurt at this point. We've been working, I've been working with Josh since 2004. So there's nothing really he's going to tell me is going to hurt my feelings about my songwriting or my playing or something like that, or really even personally, because he's like a close friend at this point. So that dynamic between Josh and each band member, and then in the band as a whole, is really what he brings to the table, is that openness and that creative freeness, and that insight, that trusted insight. He also is a world-class engineer and mix engineer, so he makes a great sounding heavy metal record.
Absolutely. And the past few years for you have also been pretty busy because you've been doing this Lamb of God record, but something that you've also been a part of is Oni, which is a prog metalcore project led by Jake Oni. How did this collaboration, this project come about? Because I know their first EP was 2016, I think.
Yeah, I actually was introduced years ago to Jake by Josh, who was working with him, and yeah, Jake and I were just worked on a whole lot of stuff. Whenever the chance, whenever timing lined up, and yeah, I got to work on his whole last album, on the whole last Oni album, and it was really a lot of fun to do. And I think it turned out great. I think it turned out really great. And they got to do some touring. I actually got to see a show and got to see them do the songs live that we've been working on. So yeah, man, that's a lot of fun. And it's kind of nice to get outside of the Lamb thing. And, and I've done that too with the solo stuff, just break out of Lamb a little bit and get involved in something that's just something out of the box for me, and it feels good creatively, and that stuff turned out really great.
So you just mentioned how you got to see these Oni songs live, and speaking of getting back on the road, you are embarking on the Omens tour with Killswitch Engage, Baroness, and Suicide Silence. You just mentioned how you were able to record this album because you couldn't tour for Self-Titled in 2020. What has it been like to get back on the road and share these songs with your fans?
Yeah, I mean, we've been back out now for a year. We did the 2 runs with Megadeth that started last year, at the end of last year, and then we did a spring run. And then we've been to Europe, and we made this record in that time as well. And now we're out again. So it's, once the gates open, we've been running nonstop. But this tour is really exciting for us. It is easily the biggest and best production we've ever put on. We put a lot of time and resources into the stage show, into the light show, a lot of thought into the performances and the set list and the bands that are out with us, and all of that was really, really deliberate and very intentional, and it's going over great, and we're really excited to be out here. And I would suggest anyone that's listening in time to catch a show in your area. If you may have seen Lamb of God before, but you've never seen us put on a show like this, without question.
Awesome. So definitely make sure you get your tickets to the Omens tour, Lamb of God, Omens. The full album comes out October 7th. Definitely go stream it, download it, get the vinyl CD, whatever you got to do. Mark, thank you so much for doing this. Anything else you want to add?
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate you, giving us your time and helping us talk about the new record, man. We're really excited about it.
Of course. So you love Lamb of God, and can't wait for that.
Yeah, always has, man. Always been a strong supporter, so we're grateful for that.
Of course. Can't wait for the full record. Mark, thank you for doing this. Patrick, WSOU 89.5.
Cheers, man. Thanks.